Where's the timer? What's up, Ultra Buddies?
Hey.
We have a reveal recap / review today. This was a big week, our first RRR for the set, and we're gonna run through it. If you want to hear our thoughts on the RRR, you gotta wait till the end because we're saving the best for last.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just get right banging into it.
Busy week for card reveals this week.
A busy week for card reveals. A lot of ups and downs this week. So our first card is the Ultraman Decker, and this card is basically like the Tiga, the uncommon Tiga from set old back set 1. 7, 3, 13, 16 solid stats, and on a single or double, you give one of your Ultra Heroes plus 1000 BP. I think I'll talk first as the resident Decker guy. This is actually so huge for the deck that I think people maybe flew under the radar a little bit. One of the issues with Decker, at least from my perspective, is it lacks like a burst option. What that means is you don't have a lot of ways to suddenly gain BP or suddenly gain extra power, whether it's a grade up or plus BP. And that means it's very hard to defend for super aggressive starts from the opponent without setting up like double, triples, 18Ks. But in this case, if you have this one, you can set up one 18K and play this one as a single for when you get your second triple up. But it'll give you a 19. And 19 is actually like very hard to kind of like get through unless you have like a really strong setup. So especially if you have like another triple out, it's really hard to like not tie or it's hard to get through that. That's at least like my assumption. So I think it's actually it seems unassuming, but it really gives the deck something that it needs. It's like a little oomph on that turn 3.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise you're running a couple of vanilla or uncommon Deckers before that would be a 13K single.
Mm-hmm.
But now this guy is effectively either 14K single on the turn you play it, or maybe you flip a tie here or there, and that can make a big deal in postponing the game, which really helps Decker decks.
Yeah, Decker is definitely a deck that thrives the longer the game goes, which is like with just 13s. So the longer you're making the game last, the better. So let's scoot on to
thumbs up.
Oh yeah, thumbs up for sure. Let's scoot on to our Rosso and Blue. So these we have a Rosso and a Blue. They're the same. These translations are wrong, and it's going to be printed this way. So big warning. This is not the effect as printed. So I'm going to read you the correct effect, which is a single or double, while blue is on both sides of this card. So both the left and the right, adjacent to left and right. So the or should be an and. Big difference. Then this character gets BP grade increase 1, and the blue is the same, but the Rosso is adjacent to the left and the right. But this character gets a BP grade increase. So big spooks the first couple of days of this week with the Rosso and Blue, thinking that Rosso Blue was going to be the best deck with no contention, and we found out that there's a mistranslation on these cards, and I think it's kind of been brought back to earth.
Yes. Now this one, when we saw this, like, oh wow, this is pretty much the RRR Ginga effect, which you're pretty much always going to have one of them on the side. So it seemed too broken. And yeah, I'm glad we got the errata. Again, warning, like if you're playing Rosso Blue and you're taking it to regionals or US Open or qualifiers or whatever, definitely know your rules. Otherwise, you may get rule checked. And then you'll have the judge called over and find out that card did not do what you thought it did. It would be rough.
Yeah, it's a good thing you're subscribed so that you know this information, so you don't get screwed over later. And I'm pretty sure every time we're playing this card in a video, we will mention this because we do not want people to get messed up in a situation that they're gonna really be sad about it. Yeah.
So now that we've gotten the revised ones, so the printed effects we thought was broken and very strong, like it's too strong, if anything. Now, what are your thoughts now that's been brought down a little bit?
I think it's actually still very strong because it gives you a lot more ways to make these kind of 17,000s, almost in a similar way to Decker, where you can make a lot of 17,000 early with lower commitment. So you can kind of, normally the way I would play Rosso Blue is I try to build 2 triples in the first 2 lanes, and then the rest of the lanes are kind of like make it up on the spot. But in this case, you can play a triple in the first lane. So like you could play a blue triple in the first lane, go for this Rosso in the second lane, and then by lane 3 you can play another blue, which you might even be able to build up slowly because you have now a 17 and then the triple blue. So you should be able to defend pretty well the first 2 lanes that way, and then kind of build up your third lane and then continue on. Or like you can start alternating these guys, and they might not have that massive impact of stealing the lead right from the get-go, but we know that Rosso Blue, being able to use scene cards from a discard effect, doesn't super need the lead. Yeah, so I think it's they'll still be very strong for the deck, but not quite like totally game-breaking, which was the original thought.
And they work a lot better in those awkward hands. Like we've seen games where you play the vanilla as a single because that's all you had. Yeah. Now you can bump it relatively okay to 12k single with already an upgrade, and then you can use one of your scene cards, bump it to 17k as a single.
Yeah, so single 17k is nothing to scoff at. I will say sometimes those awkward hands lead with a Rosso or Blue level 3 as a single, and then there's no option to have it but on both sides, which means it'll never get that boost.
Yes, so you'll have to be a little more mindful. You do become a little predictable, but I think that's negligible.
Yeah, it's okay to be predictable if your predictable is too good. Yeah. So I still think it'll be really good, but I will have to like revisit. We're starting to play like some sample hands when we get these new reveals. Like, oh my gosh, this card's so good, or it's so bad. And I'll have to revisit Rosso Blue a little bit. It'll still be really strong, a nice upgrade for the deck, but not like totally this is the best deck in the game now. So thumbs up for sure.
Yeah.
Very excited to see what Rosso Blue is going to be doing for BP4 format. We also have another card. I think we can basically ignore this card. When a scene enter plays, if you have both Rosso and Blue, so the most stringent effect on Rosso Blue scenes, your cards in your discard cannot be exiled by opponent's effects. So it just gives you some... It's kind of weird. There's really no exile opponent effects cards in the game right now, but it gives you some protection so that you can use your blue RRR ability. Not really something I'm concerned about.
Yep.
So thumbs down for me.
+1, yeah.
Yeah, I think we just move on. Dyna, okay, I think, well...
We have to come back to
build up the hype. Let's build up the hype. Yeah. Okay, so versus Givas, this was the review when we started it. It's just a little extra goodies for Belial. One thing I didn't realize, though, is this is a start deck 3.
Yes, yeah, this is... I think it's perfect for a starter deck. Yeah, nothing too fancy, basic kaiju. We had a couple of them in our original starter decks.
Yeah, not much to say here. I think there's like one of our Discords communities that we're in has like a lot of Givas fans, so they're pretty pumped about this. It means nothing to me, so but I'm happy that people are excited about Givas. Okay, moving on. I think we can talk about this. I want to kind of save the RRR to the end.
Yeah,
but build up a little bit of hype. So in the light of fate. So Dyna is seen. If you have Dyna, you can draw a card. If you draw a card with this effect, return 1 card from your hand to the top or bottom of your deck. It does a round 1 scene, and it feels very bad for Trigger because this is pretty much a strict upgrade on the old Trigger scene, which is a round 2 scene, and it has when you play it, you draw a card, and if you draw a card, you discard a card. So instead of discarding a card, you get to choose whether you actually want to keep that card in your rotation by keeping it on top of the deck, or you can discard it by putting it to the bottom. It's just a good scene.
Yeah,
a good solid scene. Help you filter out. It's really nice that it's round 1 so that you can use it early to get the cards that you want in your hand. Although your ideal setup is to have to play Dyna on round 1, lane 1 then, if you play it with this. So then you can play this one immediately and get your hand the way you want it to. The longer you wait with this one in your hand, the less likely you're going to be able to play it.
Yeah, and it it is worth calling out. Like now we have an alternative scene option for Dyna. The winning shot, the one that lets you, I think, exile 2 cards.
Right.
It's super situational, and maybe there are games where you target exactly the blue scenes they need or the Mebius level 3 they want, but it doesn't. I don't feel like it comes up well enough in like your game plan. But now you have, if anyone's doing a Dyna pairing, you have a lot more versatile, useful scene to work with.
And the other scene was the starter deck scene, which only works with Tiga Dyna Gaia. So you would feel bad if you were trying to pair Dyna with Blazar or something like that. You just can't use that scene at all. So and maybe not to tangent on the old Dyna scene too much. It's really only useful against the blue because it's a scene that you need to play. If you're in a position where you can play it versus Mebius, you are replacing the champion of the fierce fight, which is the only reason you would care to exile cards in the first place. So you're either replacing the scene, which solves the problem, or not unable to replace it and it being useless. So
also level 1 scene you can use it with Arc. I think
you can use it with Arc, which is very important when you guys see the triple rare, because Dyna Arc is at the top of my list personally. Okay. Before we get into it, thanks for watching. You're 11 minutes into the video. Give a round of applause to Tsubaria, because I think they're doing a great job with Ultraman Card Game, and let us know what Ultra you're looking forward to the most in BP04. Okay, Gaiga Raid, the first card from our video. When this character enters play, you can choose one of your characters. If you do, the chosen characters loses and will not receive any BP grade decrease for this turn. You notice how I said that very fast, because we've had some confusion.
I wanted to make sure we touched upon that.
Okay, there we go. So do you want to explain what the confusion is about?
So people read chosen character loses. There's no concept of a character losing. Characters can win or tie or lose a battle. So don't auto complete character loses this round. That's not what this card does. It loses, so it'll otherwise you could rename it as remove and then prevent any BP grade decrease effects for that character this turn. I realize that we actually might have more of this confusion in English because we never got the King from BP2, which has the actual in Japanese it's the same wording, just for BP grade increases. But since we never got that card translated officially, we never actually seen this type of effect.
So this is the first time we can get confused. But this card is pretty good. So let's talk specifically how this works. If your opponent is Rosso Blue, for example, they play what's in the name of Icarus, or
in the name of Ultraman, I think.
In the name of Ultraman? No, it's the other one.
Farewell Icarus?
Farewell Icarus, which decreases you. So they can play that scene. They BP grade decrease before you play any of your characters. Then you can play Gaiga Raid, and it'll clear that BP grade decrease off the slate of whatever card it's on. So that's the first part. It loses all BP grade decreases. That's like the first part of Gaiga Raid. The second part is if you play this character, you can target your opponent, your own character that's up across from, say, a starter deck Tiga, and that means their activate to decrease your BP grade will do nothing, right? So those are like the two sides of it, right? You can prevent things that will happen, or you can negate any effects that are already there. So I think that's really important to note. And it's 8,000, which is like not great, but it's like reasonable.
I mean, someone also pointed out it is a level 5, so maybe in the future it could have a level 6 increase. Normally, when we get just standalone kaiju, the first time we see them, they're level 6, and then we later see a level 5. So it's kind of neat. Maybe this will get some more support for this card.
Yeah, if we do get a level 6 Gaiga Raid, hopefully in this set, it would be even better. Although I think it would be odd to have a rare Gaiga Raid level 5 and then like a common Gaiga Raid level 6. Seems a little funky to me, but you know what? If they do that, then they do that. But yeah, that's a good point, because you would have a level 5 kaiju that's solid to play as a single, and then you can upgrade it later to apply pressure to that lane more. And the last funny tidbit about Geiger Raid is that it's very good in the Ken Sato Rising deck, because that deck is all about negating your own weaknesses. So pretty much all the cards just like lose for funsies. They BP grade decrease themselves for funsies. So this is another option you can put in your deck that will help negate that, just for one turn though. I still don't think Ken Sato will do anything, as much as I had fun with that deck, but
it'll be interesting. But yeah, it's not gonna put it to the top of the meta list.
For sure. Unless, like, of course, I don't know if we mentioned it, but the Ken Sato deck is actually very good against Kaiju, because they all have hazard type and whatnot, so it can kind of dodge this whole type roulette. Anyway, let's stop stalling. Let's get to the good stuff. Dyna double.
I feel
rare.
Like no one talks about this card enough.
No, well, you get to talk about it, Matt.
Yeah, no, I really like this card a lot as a double R. Double Rs are usually good ways to introduce something like a scene search, or for like Nexus and a couple others, like some kind of recycling, like Mebius lets you get some cards from discard, something to fuel and enable your future turns. So this one, you can return 2 cards from your hand to the bottom of your deck in any order. Most cases that doesn't matter too much, but then you can draw as many cards you discard. So with this, when you play it, and it works as both a single or double, which I think is also really cool. You don't have to play it as a double and do some fancy setup. You can just basically recycle 2 cards you didn't like and get them back. So no more, I have a handful of level 3s. You could play this and recycle into something you might be able to use. So it's not too fancy, but I think these type of cards are really important for consistency.
Definitely. And I read this again just now. Unfortunately, it's not incredibly strong, because you do have to send back before you draw. If it was a draw 2 and then send back 2, then it could be crazy. But they kind of force you into like committing into like, I really want to send these cards back before you get to see what's next. But
I mean, if you have a good hand, you don't have to return anything back.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's really important for just fixing your bad hands.
Yeah. And sometimes that's what it's about. I mean, that's what I think has made Mebius such a popular deck, is not that it's like more incredibly more powerful than a lot of things, but it has a lot of ways to fix those bad hands, which other decks just don't have. So
yeah,
very exciting card. Also fun art. And it also gives Dyna already had a scene search, which means you're getting a lot of options at level 2 now, which is very good. And finally, the triple rare Dyna with his rider kick pose. Although maybe since Ultraman precedes rider, it's like, I don't know how.
Yeah, but
I don't know how this works.
I don't think OG Ultraman had this as a kick pose ever. Like, not until there were heroes with kicks, but I think Rider might have come out before Leo and Taro had their fancy kicks. So
I see.
I think we can call it a rider kick.
Okay, we can call it a rider kick. Great. So let's run through this. This is a wall of text. So it's got really good stats: 5, 12, 18. Oh, we love to see 18. And a double or triple activate. We love to see activates. So you send one of your scenes to your owner's discard. Remember, that scene's in play. It's not scenes from your hand. You have to have your scene in play. And reveal the top 5 cards from your deck. Put 1 level 1 Ultra Hero card from among them into play on the bottom of one of your level 3 double Ultra Heroes with the same character name, and send the rest of the discard area. So a little reverse Blazar action going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've theorized about this before, the idea of putting cards back at the bottom to get some of those, the uncommon.
I will say I perfectly called this last week. I said, you know what? It's weird. Why did they make it a double? Gaia, I bet it puts level 1s underneath. And so I'm going to take credit for that one.
And Gaia also has one of those where it works off of a double level 3. So you could also get that guy if you're doing a Dyna Gaia deck. But anyways, enough about Gaia. Talk about this card.
Yeah, this card is pretty insane. I don't even know where to start. So what were your first combinations you wanted to try with
I mean, the first thing I was thinking of is level 1 scene. So Arc is always something. Mebius was always a go-to just to see what utility this could bring as a support character. And then you could also think of like what would a Dyna deck look like as a main character. So there could be Tiga Dynas, Dyna Gaias. I'm just gonna put together a Mebius Dyna just because. And then I know Arc Dyna is something people talked about. It's a good way to get the scenes out for this. So I feel like whereas maybe Ginga was the champion support character for BP3, and you could pretty much put in any deck. This is only a triple R we've seen, but this is definitely a leading contender for the support character you can pretty much work into most decks.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely how I feel too. The first two that came to mind for me were Arc Dyna. Just because I feel like Arc's probably like my favorite character or favorite deck to play, and it really gets around one of like the biggest weaknesses of like a Dyna type effect, which is that you need lead. You need to have lead. You need to be able to play the scene so that you can activate this effect. If you don't have lead, you can't play the scene. Dyna's useless. But Arc is like, nah, I don't care about it. That's not full. I don't care about that, right? It's just throw the scene in there and get stuff done. So I really like that. I think that Dyna will kind of fulfill the promises that I think Arc Ginga had for me, where like everyone was trying out Arc Ginga and like, oh, it's good. You get extra nils into the discard with the scene search, and then you can make it a 17. And for me, it just felt like really clunky. Like it's always just like getting in the way. I don't want to see Gingas in my hand. But I think Dyna will be the opposite because it's an 18K. The deck already has 18Ks and it's pretty good at building them. So you can just be pumping out 18Ks. It lets you play a 2-3 BP1 Arc to pop the scene and then yoink an Arc underneath it to make an 18K in the lead lane. And speaking from like the support aspect, the part about Dyna that excites me the most is that it's similar to Hikari in a way, where it's really easy to like hit that triple, right? Like Hikari is great because if you have the 1-2, you're probably going to hit the triple, especially in like a mill heavy deck, because you're going to see it at some point. And so having support characters that are like more efficient at making triple level power, I think is really important. So Dyna is a character that can go 1-2-3 and make the triple, or 2-3 and make the triple. So like you're never unhappy with like whatever combination of Dyna cards you get, because you always should be able to build up to like its most powerful, combination.
I do want to add that remember that you have to remove your scene to use this effect. So compared to like Scarred, you're only going to get so many uses, I think, of this scene, unless you're able to have a lot of scenes in your hand and keep lead. So, and not a lot of decks actually fill that role. Maybe a very aggressive Z deck will have the scenes, but I don't know if he'll be able to hold lead. And then maybe some of the aggressive Zero Mebius decks can take lead, but they're not going to have that many scenes to go through. So,
right,
Arc will be the interesting balance of this because it has good options of taking lead, and it has ways to get those scenes out there, even if you don't have lead.
So one deck that we never really played in matches, but I was kind of toying with before I just went back to mono Arc, was an Arc Z deck for BP3 format, because there's a new Z that has a very similar effect to this, which is you discard your own scene and you look at the top 3, you get a Z card and you discard the rest. So I was kind of messing around with that a little bit, and I think it had some legs when it got going, but it did struggle a little bit because like sometimes like realistically you don't care about getting more seeds in your hand for that deck. So it wasn't that helpful. But this Dyna is basically like a very similar thing, but it actually helps the Arc side of the deck. And so I think it'll be pretty powerful, and like in a deck that has 7 to 8 scenes and 2 and 8 copies of Scene Searchers, like you have a lot of firepower for scenes. So, and you also don't need lead. So that the biggest part is you don't need the lead. So you're kind of like sidestepping the point there.
And I think it also helps one of Arc's weaknesses where so the Arc 2/3 to get rid of a scene and put your own scene is a great scene clear, get your scene out there, get Arc to future out. But the only problem with that play is now you're just stuck with what 11K or 12K Arc?
Yeah.
11K Arc. But now with Dyna, you can make it an 18K Arc. So you remove that one weakness. So it's all around good. Even with like I've been playtesting this, what would a Mebius Dyna deck look like? Compared to Mebius Ginga, I really like that Dyna actually interacts with the Mebius cards.
Yeah.
Mebius can play a lot of 2/3s for some aggressive burst. And if you have Dyna out there and you wipe your scene for it, you can make one of your doubles a triple. Ginga, it's a nice 17K reliable stack, but it doesn't ever interact with the Mebius cards at all. So that this is kind of where maybe it might not be strictly stronger, but that interaction makes the game play a lot more fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what people come up with Dyna, especially as we get more triple R's from the set.
And we know Z's coming up. Z has a lot of scenes.
Z does have a lot of scenes. So Z is next week, I believe, right?
So did they announce that then? Oh, okay, they did announce it. All right, I didn't actually watch all the videos. So
Z will be at the end for next week, but yeah, I think there's a lot of things that can come up for Dyna. I think probably the one that will be a little suspect, but potentially workable, is Dyna Decker, because Dyna is going to help you get your triples out. But you pretty much don't want to be playing double ultras in Decker, so it'll be a little odd. However, sorry, go ahead. I just had a thought.
Oh, I was going to say, one thing when it comes to building a deck with Dyna, whether it's a main or support, will be to really think about how you build your ratios. Typically, we keep, or at least when I build my decks, I lean a little more top-heavy on the 2/3 side, just because you can, a 2/3 is always going to be stronger and can usually use Activate or on-play effects compared to a 1/2. So you don't want too many ones. But now that you're able to actually recycle and upgrade those, you might actually play a couple more level 1s than you might normally have in your deck. So it'll definitely cause some like replanning for what's like a good ratio for building a support character.
Yeah, so I was going to think about Dyna Decker, and I was thinking that there are cases where you really would need to, or you really need or want to get that Decker ability online, but you don't have a triple yet. So you opt to make like a triple of something else and then make a double for the Decker. But if the other triple is a Dyna, then maybe you can eventually sneak that level 1 under the Decker to make another 18K. So that could be kind of a little fun thing to do. And Dyna does have that new level 2, which helps fix your hand a lot, which was something Decker really needs. Might be something to try out. I think there's not much else we can talk to, and we're cutting it close on time. So let us know what you think about the new Dyna. And we're going to see you next week for Ultraman Z RRR.
Yeah, this will be an exciting one for sure.
Yeah, okay. I got to keep the call out trend going. I think this is tough. It's going to have something to do with like how many cards you have in hand or how many cards you draw or something like that, because all the Z cards are about accumulating cards in hand. So we haven't seen any Z's from this set, so I don't get anything really to work with, but that's something that like gives the deck
we had
power.
The Z that lets you, when you're next player, you can get
discard.
Yeah, so
maybe
there might be some exile, maybe more. It's either going to exile things from discard or get more things in the discard. Something with the discard pile.
What I would like to see, something that gives the deck more power. The deck has a lot of, like what you said, get cards. So it needs to convert those cards into just insane power. Okay, that's it. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Thanks.